Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories in the week. I am Bisi Adebayo. The headlines. At least 28 persons dead, properties destroyed in Kogi and Lagos State tackle explosions. Face-off between the federal government and the organised labour continues over planned strike action to protest the recent increase in the pump price of petrol and electricity tariff. Central Bank reduces NPR to 11.5%. And on the foreign scene, Mali swears in a new civilian president. News Round begins on a sad note with the tank explosions that rocked the capital cities of Kogi and Lagos States. The Kogi explosion may never be forgotten in a hurry, as at least 28 people lost their lives, and some of them school children. As Nigerians were still grappling with the shock of the Kogi blast, another explosion occurred in the Iju-Ajuwon area of Lagos, involving a gas tanker, leaving no fewer than 50 persons injured, with about 16 of them said to be in critical condition.
Blaring sirens of an ambulance carrying the dead from a fatal road accident in Felele community in Lokoja, the Kogi state capital. 23 people are burnt beyond recognition, and that's according to the road safety officials, in a disaster that shocked onlookers. Help came but too late.
We counted 23 people lost their lives in this unfortunate crash. As far as we know, there is only one child that survived the crash with a minor injury. So the fire was big when it started, and it was beyond the control. And with the absence of the fire service engines, we could not do much until when the fire doused down, and then we went into action.
Smoke still billows as fire burns in some parts of the tanker that burst into flames instantly. Students were reportedly amongst the dead. The proof? Pages of books, once read by them, turned into ashes.
There are more than 30, cannot count. He said it's about the school, but their one family is there, children is there, wife is there, husband is there, and the neighbors.
The deputy governor soon arrives, and in the midst of the crowd, assures residents of a quick solution to the perennial problem of the state of roads.
It's a sad Wednesday for all of us in Kogi State, especially the Felele community that had witnessed this kind of mishaps before. And of course, His Excellency sends his deepest condolences to the families of those who have lost their lives.
A similar incident occurs in the Iju-Ajuwon area of Lagos, where residents were suddenly jolted by the sound of an explosion from a private gas depot. They scamper for safety as the fire spreads as far as 400 meters away. Business concerns of various scales also succumbed to the fierce fire. The bare bones of the gas truck that exploded is stripped, squeezed, and flung apart into any space it finds. Safety officials explain how the fire started and the figures of property destroyed.
There used to be a manufacturer's seal from where it is being loaded. So this supervisor at Mana Gas, who is to take custody of the gas, delivery of the gas, said it's been tampered with, compromised, so he's not going to take it. It is with that annoyance the driver of the truck was coming out of this axis, and suddenly the front tire busted. In the process, the gear section, is under the cabin, hits the concrete, and there was an explosion. There was a spark. It was this spark that provoked gas explosion.
The number of vehicles involved is still remaining 18. Shops damaged is 40. Electric posts, about 11 electric posts have been damaged, and we've directed the Ikeja distribution company to disconnect from the damaged poles so that light can be restored in other parts of the state.
This is another sad occurrence of the dangers posed by trucks carrying petroleum products to the citizens. Many would expect that the authorities unravel the cause of these accidents with a view to preventing such from ever happening again.
We're moving on to other stories now. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has announced a disbursement of 32 billion naira to 32 states of the Federation, asking them to prioritize testing as fatigue has already set in most states. Also, at the routine briefing in Abuja, the Minister of Health, Dr. Sage Ihanire, called on states planning to further reopen their economy as well as schools to exercise caution, as 10% of all the treated cases in the country are below the ages of 19.
Members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 arrived for the day's update on the national response to the pandemic. The national coordinator of the task force speaks about how the task force is helping states to scale up testing for the virus.
We have released money to the state governments recently, to 32 state governments. Each state government was given 1 billion naira. This is for the purpose of driving their COVID responses. And we are asking them to please prioritize testing in addition to surveillance activities linked to COVID-19.
Nigeria has consistently recorded low cases of infection in the last 4 weeks, but the task force says there is no reason to celebrate yet, as testing in many states remain very low.
The number of reported cases daily has declined nationally in the last few weeks, yes. We have seen a 36% decline in August compared to July on national figures. Unfortunately, we cannot celebrate this until we test sufficient numbers in every state.
The call for greater vigilance is underscored by the fact that our economy has been seriously affected by the pandemic, and we are pushing through our homegrown economic recovery strategies to cushion the economic impact of the pandemic. This call is made more pertinent in view of the noticeable increasing disregard for basic non-pharmaceutical measures that have proven very successful. Face masks have now turned into chin masks. Social distancing and gatherings are returning to the pre-COVID-19 era.
The task force is also again expressing serious concern over plans by states to reopen schools, as its records show teenagers accounting for 10% of all treated cases in the country.
As schools begin to reopen in some parts of the country, I want to urge caution and adherence with protocols and advisories for reopening schools as circulated by the Ministry of Education. Records show that 10% of all the positive cases we have treated so far are under the age of 19 years.
There are currently over 7,500 active cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, from the over 479,000 samples tested so far.
The Nigerian Labour Congress is insisting on going ahead with the planned protests and industrial action, as it has directed its members to gather at the Unity Fountain in Abuja for a mass rally scheduled to commence at 7 a.m. on Monday, September the 28th. This comes as the federal government obtained a fresh order barring the organized labour from embarking on the strike. The decision by the unions follows the inability of the federal government to reach an agreement on issues arising from the recent increase in the prices of fuel and electricity, with the talks adjourned till the same day, Monday, September the 28th.
It is the second meeting between the federal government, leaders of the Nigeria Labour Congress, and the Trade Union Congress at the banquet hall in the presidential villa. It is 4 days to the planned nationwide industrial action and protest by the organized labour, and this meeting is aimed at averting the actions.
I would want to remark that I had the privilege of serving on the transition committee when President Buhari was elected in 2015. And I remember the decisions that we are confronted with today were things that that transition committee considered as low-hanging fruits in 2015. So if 5 years down the ladder, that decision has become imperative and cannot be escaped.
Yes, we have gotten those communiques and we are addressing the issues attendant thereto. With that, we think we can resolve the issues and nobody will be in the mood to go on strike or go on demonstrations in the street.
Meanwhile, the Labour leaders insist that the government should reverse its decision before calling for negotiation, as the recent increment has eroded the value of the new minimum wage.
These two increases have also reduced our purchasing power and eroded the gains we have been able to make with the 30,000 minimum wage, where, as we speak, more than 1/3 of the states are not paying, or the payment have also had some difficulty.
The submission of TUC as at last week still remain. That you reverse all those increases, then you can come up with economic solutions, economic recovery solutions that you have. I know many times we have advised you to diversify the economy.
After those remarks from the government and the Labour leaders, the meeting then enters a technical session as journalists are excused. The Labour movement had threatened to embark on a nationwide protest and industrial action on Monday, September the 28th, to demonstrate their rejection of the recent hike in the price of fuel and electricity.
And to matters on the economy, for a second time this year, the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee has reduced the country's MPR from 12.5% to 11.5% after a two-day Monetary Policy Committee meeting in the nation's capital, Abuja. The CBN governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, blames the rise in the country's inflation from 12.8% in July to 13.2% in August on insecurity, flooding, high production costs, as well as the increase in the price of petrol and electricity tariff.
It's the fourth Monetary Policy Committee meeting for the year. Before this meeting, figures from the National Bureau of Statistics reveal some economic indices that are not too good for the country. These include the rise in inflation by 13.2% in August and a minus 6% drop in the gross domestic product. These and more are some of the concerns raised by members of the Monetary Policy Committee.
The increase in headline inflation was largely driven by the persistent increase in the food component, which rose to 16% in August 2020 from 15.48% in July 2020. These upticks were driven primarily by legacy structural factors such as the inadequate state of critical infrastructure and broad-based security challenges across the country, which dampened production activities.
The Apex Bank governor then resolved the domestic outlook of the economy. The nation's economy, according to him, will continue to grapple with the effect of the pandemic for the remaining month of the year. No thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has seen the disbursement of 3.5 trillion naira to key sectors of the economy.
The committee remains committed to its primary mandate of ensuring price stability. It, however, noted the need to address the structural supply side issues that are putting upward pressure on production cost and depressing economic growth. To this end, committee supports the various intervention programs of the bank towards stimulating production in the agricultural and the manufacturing sectors.
The Nigerian economy, just as other developed and emerging economies, are still grappling with the effect of disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And this has resulted in an economic contraction of 6.1% in the second quarter of the year. Members of the Monetary Policy Committee, however, project a positive growth in the last quarter of 2020, or most likely the first quarter of 2021.
Still to come on News Round, Mali swears in a new civilian president. Please stay with us. A former central bank governor, Mohamed Sanusi, is suggesting that the federal government must concentrate on creating the right environment for private businesses to thrive. He believes that diversification is one of the ways this can happen, and until it's successfully done, Nigeria will continue to lag behind in terms of development. The former CBN governor, who was the guest speaker at the Kaduna Investment Summit, explains that over-reliance on oil has made the country unproductive in many other sectors.
I therefore invite you all to participate and enjoy the discussion.
It's the final day of the 5th Kaduna Investment Summit, and the key takeaway is how to take advantage of technology in building an economic environment for Kaduna State and the country at large. The event kickstarts with Governor Nasir El-Rufai giving a brief of deliberations and adoption so far.
Our future plans include an increased share of agriculture, electrical and electronics, automotive assembly, textiles, ICT, electricity, mining and quarrying, inter and intra-state transport as contributions to GDP.
Next is the guest speaker, a former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, who is the vice president of the Kaduna State Investment Promotion Agency, Sanusi Lamide Sanusi. He gives an insight on how Nigeria's economy has fared before, during, and after the discovery of oil.
Why was Nigeria successful in the pre-oil period? It was diversification. In this period, interestingly, we were growing, but we did not diversify. That's one. And that explains the huge levels of poverty in the country. It explains the huge levels of inequality in the country. It explains the vulnerability of the economy to shocks in terms of trade. It also explains the relatively slow pace of growth.
He goes on to identify opportunities in the country, highlighting the important role technology and smartphones play in wealth creation.
There is enough investment in towers, enough investment in networks, and the federal government says we're going to invest in broadband with the ESP. Fine. What can Kaduna State do to produce young people in Kaduna State who know better than pick up the mobile phone to send WhatsApp messages to their friends and forward gossips and stories, who realize that this phone in their hand is actually a ticket to wealth.
Shortly after is the launch of the Kaduna Investment Report 2020, which has been prepared by the Oxford Business Group. According to Jimmy Lawal, a board member of the Kaduna Investment Promotion Agency, the document contains all the needed information for intended investors in the state.
They will have information readily available to them on all the sectors that are available in Kaduna State, are priority sectors for development and for growth, and they can then just fit into their own areas of investment and perhaps go into a green economic zone or green agro-allied industrial zone and be able to plug and play.
The use of technology to create a buzzing market also formed part of deliberations in one of the plenary sessions.
Anyone that wants to set up a tech business to address economic development, they need to actually know what the challenges are. Where are these people that need the problems to be solved? What are the types of problems they're facing, and what are the best ways to solve them?
With the deliberations and key takeaway from the summit, the Kaduna State government believes that its policy will help attract more investments, boost internally generated revenue, and add its quota to the economic development of the country.
A rail line to link Kano, Katsina, Jebia to Maradi rail line in Niger Republic and to Dutse, the Jigawa state capital, has been approved by the Federal Executive Council for the sum of $1.9 billion. The 3.04 billion naira contract was also awarded for the design, manufacture, supply, testing and commissioning of one railway crane of 150-ton capacity for emergency and recovery of rolling stocks.
President Muhammadu Buhari presides over the 16th Virtual Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House in Abuja. As with most Federal Executive Council meetings, it was a rain of approved memos, beginning with the approval for the award of the contract for the proposed Kano-Katsina-Jibia to Maradi rail line in Niger Republic and to Duse, the Jigawa state capital.
The award of contract for the development of the proposed Kano, Katsina, Jibia to Maradi rail line in Niger Republic, and to Duse, the capital of Jigawa, for a total cost of $1.9 billion.
62 additional Green Mariah vehicles were approved for Nigeria's correctional service.
The objective is to ensure that the delay associated with trial of inmate is reduced, if not eliminated. We do not have enough, but we must commend the administration for the provision of these, for the award of this contract and provision of these vehicles.
12.088 billion naira has been approved for the Umuahia Arochukwu Highway.
This award now, the entire length of the road is now under contract to the same contractor, and we hope for expeditious execution.
3.7 billion naira was approved as augmentation of the contract for the construction of the Petroleum Development Fund corporate headquarters in Abuja, and 8 more forensic field auditors were added to the NDDC audit.
These people are now going to be in charge of the 9 states of the Niger Delta, which have been divided into 16 lots. Like I stated earlier, Lot 1 is Ernst and Young. For the headquarters, they will be undertaking the 19 years of audit and also bring out the organogram for the restructuring of the NDDC for better performance in future.
1,800 laptops were also approved for the customs service schools in Abuja, Lagos, and Kano for the sum of 351.5 million naira, while 197.8 million naira was approved for the expansion of the Nigerian Customs Service cash management software. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
News round ends in Mali, where an interim president has been sworn into office 5 weeks after the overthrow of Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. As part of a process towards resolving the country's political crisis, former defense minister, 70-year-old Bandar, was picked by the coup leader, Colonel Assimi Goïta, to head a transitional government until elections, which are expected in 18 months. Colonel Goïta was also sworn in as his vice president. The appointment of a civilian president was ordered by ECOWAS in order to lift the sanctions it imposed after the coup. However, after Ms. Ndal's inauguration, ECOWAS officials say they would only lift the embargo after the appointment of civilian prime minister. And that's News Round this week. Thank you for watching. I am Bisi Adebayo.